let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to today's Connectpreneur Masterclass. The title of today's class is Speed Up Investment, Increase Customer Appeal to Raise Capital Faster. Today we have Debbie Klein and Victoria Collins of Buzzy Rocket. They'll be conducting this masterclass. Buzzy Rocket has been a partner with Connectpreneur for almost 3 years now. They're truly awesome startup marketing experts, and if you don't know them, I'm sure you'll get to know them now during the masterclass, and they're really awesome. Just a few notes about today's class is we are going to have a 30 to 40-minute presentation by Debbie and Victoria, and we will do a Q&A session after that presentation. If you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will read them after during the Q&A session. So you can put them in the chat during the presentation at any time or after the presentation, whenever you prefer. We will be doing some polling during the presentation. It's an interactive masterclass, so just be on the lookout for those. And also the masterclass will be recorded. So if you miss any of it or want to rewatch any of it, we'll make sure to get you that recording, and it'll be up on our YouTube channel as well, which Emily can put the link for that in the chat so you have it. So with that, I would like to turn the time over to Debbie Klein and Victoria Collins of Buzzy Rocket for today's class.
Great. Thanks, Skylar. Thanks for having us, Tian, Emily, the Connectpreneur team. We think you're awesome too. We love to work together. I have met, I think, hundreds of founders and entrepreneurs through your community, live and virtual events. So thrilled to be here. I'll give, the really short story about Buzzy Rocket. We were founded in October. It will be 15 years ago. We've helped, I think this is a little outdated. I think we've helped probably about 140 startups at this point. We passionately love what we do. We actually only work with 6 startups at a time because although we have an awesome team behind us of developers, copywriters, graphic designers, Victoria and I ourselves work directly with the founders and teams. We have a deep experience raising over $30 million. Victoria raised over $30 million for her own marketing tech analytics startups. We've worked at large corporations, but have worked at and with many startups. Super, obviously, hopefully, super passionate about this space. We say it like it is. As we put in the intro, we're sort of like no BS kind of marketers. So if you want a yes man, don't call us. We're success-based and super pumped to be here. Email us, call us, text us, Slack us, whatever you want. We're thrilled to connect with people. All right. As Skylar said, we're talking today about speeding up investment, but specifically focused on how customer appeal and success applies. So I'm going to lead simply so we attempt to avoid the overspeaking. Please know that at least half of the brains behind the operation is smiling at us. And if you have specific questions to Victoria, feel free to address those also. Okay, great. Starting with a poll, Skylar. Are customers important for a raise? Okay. Yep, absolutely. Number one things. I hope not. We don't have any. We've hear that more than often, so I'm sure that's why some of you are here. Yes, but in later stage rounds, and as a refresher, your total and or target addressable market is what a TAM is. Yes, but that's more important. So we will give you guys a few seconds to answer that while our inquisitive cow looks at you. And I always love seeing the answers to the polls because they often surprise me. And I love to see how much a sense of humor the group has. Oh, all right. Beyond a passing grade. Excellent. And those of you that said target addressable market, we are going to speak to that. And it is important in the context of customers, absolutely. And they do remain important in later stage rounds. So everyone gets at least partial credit for that one. Okay. Customers absolutely accelerate capital. So you don't just need customers to get it. But, ideally you want, whether it's an individual sale or you're trying to get investment, you want everything to be, let's remove as many objections as we can. Let's pull the timeline forward as much as possible. And having customers to hit different proof points that we're going to speak about, pardon me, absolutely does that. I'm not sure we are going to get a lot of pushback on that one. Now, the funding environment right now is different. So we're always going to have someone come at us and be like, my friend had some idea and someone gave them $50 million. Rock on. I hope they are crushing it. That's amazing. But right now, in this environment, and for what we see as the foreseeable future, people are putting their money behind proof, and that proof is coming through different areas related to customer acquisition. Poll two, are you in the process of raising? And we have some sort of broad-based, as opposed to sort of prescribing slides that we go through no matter what, like a robot, we tweak a little bit. So want to see how many of you are currently in the process of a raise. You may or may not raise in 6 to 12 months, maybe in a year, never. You're just here for the customer part of it, which is great. So let's give you guys 1 sec for that one.
Still some responses coming in, so let me just give
Yeah.
it
And
a couple seconds or so.
yeah, no problem. And these answers, we're going to give the answer as of right now, but yeah, they sometimes change on a daily, weekly, monthly basis as things change. Okay, great. Almost 60%. So we have a nice mix, and we'll be sure to focus on raising while also, again, honing in to ensure that we are really hitting the customer piece. Great. Thank you, Skylar. Okay, great. So as you are considering both customers and the raise, we're big on reality checks and focus. It's really important to understand what's in your control and what is not. There is, particularly in a startup, if you're an entrepreneur, a founder, even you're working in a startup, you have to understand, like, here's the pie I have every day. There's only so many pieces of that pie. Like, where am I going to put my energy? Like, am I going to give the whole pie to over here? Am I going to have a little slice here? So let's focus on things that are in your control. Things that are heavily in your control, all the things on the left, highly, highly relate to customers. And something that a lot of these things seem obvious. And as we dig into the detail, I would encourage you to be really thoughtful and honest with yourself as to what things you are focusing on, what things you've sort of just checked the box, what things you might have your rose-colored glasses on, and a little bit on the out of your control. If you're, for example, getting and trying to do a raise, people get you got to get so many at bats, you have to have so much energy, but it can be frustrating, but for example, if you're a healthcare company and you're spending time meeting with investors that invest in automotive technology, unless you are the 1 in a million exception to the rule, that's out of your control. If they are investing in an area, you're not going to convince them or change their mind as to they should suddenly like throw out their core focus, their target market, and shift to you, right? So there's lots of things out of your control. Let's spend our energies on things that are in our control. Okay. This is a somewhat depressing statistic, but it's pink and it's happy and there's a positive sign, and there's a whole huge percent of improvement. But, less than 0.5% of investors are actually going to have any true interest to seriously consider you without customers and or proven traction. And that is simply a fact. We have, the reason I didn't cite sources is there's pages and pages of sources, and they range from 0.4 to 0.68, but you have to have some customer traction in order to get money. Another stat, some of you might have done friends and family, you might have done pre-seed, you might have been bootstrapping, but to get from there to Series A, the number one factor is customers. And don't worry, there's only one more slide kind of proving the point that you probably already know before we dive into the meat of it. But we do believe that it's always important to have your conversations based on facts. If you have 1 to 5 customers, at these odds, it's barely worth making a swing at this one. So we are baseball fans as well as sports fans, so we do love the making a pitch analogies. But your 99.7 is a pretty challenging stat to go against without customers behind you. Okay, poll. What's your biggest issue closing customers? No one knows we're even out there. No one understands what we do. Everyone's stupid. They're all idiots. Clearly, they should all be using our stuff. I have no idea what we're doing wrong, or, oh, we have plenty of customers. This is not a problem for us. Okay, so let's see. And I should not have prefaced all this with having a reality check, because the honest answers versus the ones that we get before telling people to be really thoughtful sometimes shifts the bell curve a little bit.
We're still getting some in, so I'm just
All right, well, while those come in, one
but
of
they're
the
still steadily coming in.
That's fine. That's fine. While we have a dog on here, I'll just segue for 1 second. We also do lots of work. We volunteer time, money, and services to lots of different animal rescue organizations. So if anyone's interested in that off topic, feel free to shoot us a note on that also. Wow. Okay, well, as I said, if you could leave those results up for 1 sec, please, Skylar. So, as I said, we're deep, deep experts. Like, we work in this space every day, all day, and are so passionate about it. And existence, awareness, no one knows we exist. That is not shocking. And the people don't get what we do. So you absolutely trend with these startups with whom we work and connect with that we don't work. I love that 6% of you think they're idiots, and let's hope your products all kick butt to the point that they are. No idea. I love that you're being super honest. And it's also amazing that 22% of you have customers, and I would assume, maybe shouldn't, that part of your challenge is a bit more translating the customer success that you are having into investment success. And we have an entire other masterclass, and we're happy to just have a conversation about what investors say, what founders hear, and how to kind of connect the dots there to understand how to move that forward. So we're happy to have that conversation offline also. Okay, great. Thanks, Skylar. We can pop on to the next slide. Okay, well, one of the things, and we're going to switch in a minute into a sort of different, the second half or mode of the presentation, but proof really does drive confidence. And for everyone who applied in every single category, these are proof areas that give investors, and some of these apply also to customers, they give them confidence. So segueing a tiny bit, as a reminder, the customer experience and the investor experience are a little similar, that you want to attract awareness, convert into a relationship, and then, or, handshake, convert to a relationship, And then, so you want to attract and convert and then retain. So whether these are customers that you want to attract, close deals, and then retain and grow their business, or you want to attract investors, get a relationship, and continue through to the close. And then potentially, if you think of it like an infinity loop, going through, maybe they're going to start with you in a seed round and continue through other rounds as a lead investor or whatever it may be. But regardless, as to whichever experience you're in, real numbers and data are critically important. We don't want to hear things such as everybody loves it. An investor can perceive that as anything from who, your mom, to wow, the whole market must love these guys. So using numbers and data, and whether you're talking about customers that you have or you don't have, there are still a significant number of positive proof points that you can use, even if you aren't quite at the customer numbers yet and haven't yet had the ability or understanding to implement some of the other things that we're going to talk about. For those of you that are not familiar with PMF, that is product market fit. So, for example, if you have, pretend we're talking, although we say customers, it could mean users, right? So, say you have an app and you have, I don't know, whatever, 20,000 users, and you're super excited about that. But if only four of them are actually engaging, that's showing a potentially poor product market fit. So there's also positive upside, positive product market fits that we'll speak about. And social proof, just to clarify, does not necessarily mean social media. Social proof are things outside of the pure numbers, such as, it might be a logo, it might be somebody else writing a Google review about how awesome you are, etc. Okay, let's go. So we're going to kind of go into a slightly different mode here. In this area, it may or may not prompt more questions. So as Skylar said, feel free. I can't see the chat live while I'm presenting, but feel free to pop them in there. We'll take notes and address whatever might come up at the end. Okay, so back to the number one issue that came up in the poll of awareness. This is actually a step past awareness, right? This is the assumption that at some level, the awareness got there, but like you're in the room alone, right? You're like in the echo chamber, nothing is happening. It can be painful and confusing, right? Because they're all idiots. Why aren't they immediately seeing what you have? Well, one of the core issues, get in the right pool. Where are you swimming? What is going on that no one's getting back to you? The core issue of zero awareness and no one knowing that you even exist is often because you are not hanging out where your audience is. You are speaking to a hollow room, right? Like yelling and no one is listening. So if you are I'm not going to make assumptions as to whether we have B2B, B2C, or a mix. We personally have a huge amount of B2B technology experience and clients, but also have B2C and experience across the board, both in B2B, B2C, different industries, etc. So if, for example, you are selling lipstick, don't go to car shows, go to Sephora, right? Like if you are doing B2B technology and there are specialized Reddit, whatever it may be where your customers are, and don't go once every other month and see what people are up to and lurk around and put a thumbs up here and there. Engage. You need to provide value, be part of a community, and be there early and often, right? So this might seem obvious, but people talk, a lot of these seem obvious. Sometimes I call some of these things like, the mom rules. Like these are things that hopefully you already know, but going back to basics or certainly helps. One of the things you can do We love, quite frankly, working with Connectpreneur. We all swim in the same pool, right? We are startup experts. We work with entrepreneurs. We work with investors. You're our people. The people on this call are our people. We're not necessarily selling to you, but we want to be active in the conversations that you're listening to and providing value. Okay. The prospect has said, thanks. This seems awesome. We are the only special, excellent company that has, we're the exception to the rule. We're too big, we're too small for whatever reason. Oh, they're coming up with this doesn't apply to me. Okay, stop talking to the wrong people. There's reasons why that's happening. The core issue is you're speaking to the wrong people, and or as part of that, there's unclear positioning. So if you're speaking to people and you have data, and we'll get to some of this later, but if you have all the data and information that, hey, this is, this is the right target market. Well, then the positioning of your organization, where you sit in the landscape, is not clear to them. They don't understand, right? So one of the things you want to do is refine your ICP, your ideal customer profile. Yeah. In an ideal world, you can be like, excellent, I'm going to get like, Gardner and this and that. That's fine. If you have $0, it's all about get down and dirty, figure it out, right? Like figure out who is your target market. If you're selling ice cream, put all 31 flavors out there, let everyone taste it and see what they like. If you find out that, whatever, 20-year-old professional women like chocolate, great. And you have the best chocolate ever, there's your target market. Segment how you speak to this market. Don't write an email, shove it in your system, and send it to everybody. Figure out who is that target market, niche down to the minimum target market that truly represents a potential pool of success for you. And even within their segment, right? Don't send a message to existing clients that is talking about, we hope we can do business together. There's nothing more deflating than to think that you're special to a company and then find out that, oh no, this is actually I'm just one of everyone else. So there's many, many different ways to focus on the target market, but please speak to the right people. Okay. This comes up really, really often. Okay, they're listening, if anyone is even listening to their voicemail anymore, let's pretend they are, and they're going through and they're like, oh, wow, hi, I'm Debbie selling XYZ. They're like, yep, delete, 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 delete. From their perspective, what they are hearing, because remember, what you are saying is irrelevant. What they are hearing is what's relevant. There's a famous, I think it's a Steve Jobs quote that says, you are what people say you are when you're not in the room. So perception's reality. There's 100 things I can say here, but I cannot say enough. When the prospect is saying like, yeah, I get this every day, the challenge is you are not saying it loudly or clearly enough. And I do not mean loudly that you should literally be shouting it at them. We always want to listen first, right? We believe our philosophy there is you want to listen, connect, grow. But I think you get clear is the key word to take out of this one. The issue is bad messaging. And it's not just like, oh, maybe it could be better. It's bad messaging. Something that's super, super interesting is, and we could certainly connect you with dozens of clients just in the past couple of years who have taken the following curve that I'm about to share is that, oh no, our message is good. We want to just like get on that starting line. Like we're running the marathon. We know what the destination is. Like we know what's going on. Messaging is truly, truly the foundation upon which you are building both your business, understanding your target market, and people think their messaging is strong and it's not. I cannot give you enough tough love on this one. It's not. Can you say what your company is? Can you say what you do, who you do it for, and why you do it better than anyone else in literally, ideally, one sentence? If it's too much overrun on, we'll give you a little grace and let you have two sentences. Um, Everyone says absolutely. And then I'm checking my watch and I'm like, weird. This elevator has gone up and down 22 times and you're not done with your pitch. Like, that is not one to two sentences. And yet I still don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just going to back out of the elevator and leave you there by yourself because I don't understand the value. I don't understand how you're different. And if you go back to I get pitch solutions like this every week. Can't say it enough. Rewrite your value prop. And do me a favor, do not take your value prop that's whatever, let's say 2 pages long, and dump it in AI and say, make this one sentence. That doesn't count. Okay, we'll talk about that more later. Highlight very specific differentiators. Ideally, you'll have some form of a metric. And remember, there's almost always a positive yet honest way to present a metric. You never, ever, ever want to lie. There's dating myself, but there's a scene from the movie Ted where he goes in for an interview and the interviewer asks him a question. And then he's like, oh, really? Well, like, how many? And then he sits there in a panic and says, I wasn't expecting a follow-up question. So don't ever lie, but know your numbers and find a way to represent it in a positive way and get it in your message. And stop using like all these buzzwords. Just say it. No one, again, in 2025, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, in different industries, B2B, B2C, it was a positive at that point sometimes to show how smart you were with all of these like industry buzzwords and all of that. Just stop. Not now. Okay. I checked out your website. I did listen to your call. I did think you were somewhat interesting. Then I went to your website. It's not what I thought it was, but like, thanks. I didn't even mean to pick up this phone call because, I really know now that you're not for me. Play the same tune, right? Whether it's across your sales and marketing materials, whether it's training that you have provided to your internal organization, whether, I like to go with the Pareto principle, 80-20, right? You're allowed to flavor things with a slightly different story. You're allowed to slightly tweak it based on an industry, but the consistency across the touch points needs to be there. So, for example, if I have an ad on Google, right? So I have a Google ad and it says, you know, we do XYZ. And you're like, I need XYZ. That's unbelievable. I can't believe I got served this ad. This is amazing. And you click it and it brings you to the website and it's talking about ABC. You're like, well, that's weird. I thought I thought they did this, but I guess I must not have. I guess they don't. I'm done. So now when you follow up with that email, they see another ad. That ad is wasted money. The email is going to be dragged over into their black hole AI get rid of it folder. You've lost it. So I can't stress enough brand consistency, and this should be low-hanging fruit. This is in the sense of things that you can fix, right? Don't have different versions of your logo in different areas. Every single step in your customer journey, you need to be talking about the value you deliver, the results that they plan to see. Remember, also, you need to always be positioning this about them, not you. Do not talk about how awesome you are. Do not talk about all these features you have. Certainly, there's a place for that in the story. It's not, um, I think we understand this point, right? Let's align everything. All right. Let's just say we've continued to make it through, right? And then after the demo, you're almost looping back to crickets, right? And if the prospect says, oh, well, I mean, again, I didn't mean to answer the phone, but now that I'm talking to you, I didn't hear back about it. And honestly, like it's on my sticky notes somewhere, might have gotten thrown out. I forgot to follow up about this. Give them some love. It is so, so hard. And again, we're speaking about customers. We are also remembering that as I go through these, a potential investor is a different flavor of a customer, right? Even your employees, to some extent, they're your most important customer. So a lot of these lessons, a lot of these kind of core foundational principles apply across. For example, let's just say you do have the opportunity you're at a Connectpreneur event, you have the opportunity to meet like some awesome investor, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to hook them up with my founder because this is amazing. Then they meet with the founder and the founder's telling a different story, or if they don't follow up, all of these things can apply across. There is absolutely zero excuse, right? If you have not followed, even 24 hours in today's day and age is very often considered like, well, I must not be that important to them. Like they must not need my business all that much. So ensure that you understand their journey, like what path are they on, and you need to be there and anticipating all of it. The pieces that you can automate, for example, if they do um, sign up for a demo or submit a form saying, yes, I want to learn more, ensure that if at all possible, there's an automated follow-up. There's tools in today's day and age that are everything from free to like, $20,000 a month that can do this for you. So and everyone knows that. So there's almost no excuse at this point not to be following up. Understanding that every follow-up cannot also be, so where are you in the process? Like, how's the demo going? It has to be, hey, I was speaking with Bob at our client X, and he just had this really compelling result come in, and I wanted to share it with you. If you don't have case studies done yet, don't let it slow you down. Send an email, pick it up, create a short case study, whatever it may be. And when I say personal touch points, if you have a personal relationship, certainly you can say, hey, how are the kids and family? But this can be personal in the sense of you happen to know that they're super interested in soccer and you saw a super interesting article about the World Cup. Great. Forward them the article and just say, thought this might be of interest. Many people have heard before, right? The harder I work, the luckier I get. Well, looping back to swimming in the right pool and all of these different things we've talked about, you have to be there when they do recognize their need, know they're your correct target, and then engage and apply all of these other things as we go. Okay. Okay, this thing seems awesome, but like I have so many other things on my list and I don't have budget, so I don't really know what to tell you. Show them why it matters. They can just sit there, blow bubbles and try and accomplish other things. They don't understand that you can deliver something that will significantly improve maybe it's business to consumer. It can significantly improve their life. If it's B2B, maybe it can significantly improve their process on a more personal level. It might be able to improve their performance, and then they can hit their KPIs, and then they might get a bonus or a promotion. But for whatever the reason might be, they don't think it matters. So speak not to the laundry list of things that your solution does, what are their urgent pain points. This goes back to listening, right? Don't go in with like your box of 64 Crayolas, like they don't even need a crayon. What is important and immediately is high impact for them? And then going back to the consistency and what they expect, speak directly to them with messaging, marketing materials, and offers that address those very specific problems in a way that they clearly understand. And what you've done then is created the sense of urgency and the relevance. Again, you never want to lie. So you don't want to call an investor and say, oh, there's only $5 left and all these other people, because then you lose all credibility. Or people do this sometimes with marketing offers, right? Like, oh, you only get the discount till the end of the month. And then that's still on their website like 6 months later. Um, so you never want to lose credibility, but you want to create FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. You want them to say, oh my gosh, wait, you're telling me that my competitors are doing this? You're telling me that I could be saving whatever, $500,000 a year in my budget? You're telling, which might then also give them the ability to address another pain point. So there's a lot that has to really happen to put all those dots together, and you need to do it for them. They are not going to do it. So figure it out and address, answer their question, make it relevant for them. Okay, let's revisit this in a few months. And I will also say, each of these that we have gone through, and there's only one or two more, sometimes people are just being polite, right? Sometimes it's not you, it's them. Sometimes it's not them, it's you. But people don't like to say, don't call me again and just hang up, right? So let's revisit this in a few months. I would say this one we hear 100% from prospects and 100% on the investment side. For different reasons, positive and negative. Sometimes investors are like, wow, these guys have a little bit of traction. I am interested. They have kind of like ticked off a lot of these boxes. And it seems like if they can continue their trajectory in a few months, they might be at the point that we're like, ready to consider a term sheet or whatever stage might make sense. On the customer side, again, might be very honest, like, hey, I have to finish my ERP implementation first or whatever. Or it's the polite brush off, right? Again, create more urgency, help them understand there's no compelling event, create the FOMO, put this all together, right? Ideally, these things are also tied to some kind of deadline, sense of urgency, event. I think we've talked about these core areas enough. All right. This is what we hear. Oh, I'm going to say what, Victoria, like 90+% of the time. Yeah, I've done this. Like, I get it. Like, what else can I do? Like, I'm good. We generally counter, we don't believe you, right? Back to the tough love. We're not going to actually call you a liar because that's not what we think. Of course, you believe you've done this, but as I look at this, please, you need a reality check, okay? Have you really done these things? You need to look in the mirror. Okay, have I done them, but I've done them maybe at 10%? Have I done them, but, and none of these are insulting, a sign of ignorance, the amount of things you have to accomplish while wearing multiple hats and spinning plates and doing, sometimes you are selling, developing, delivering, and providing service all at the same time. So we just need to have a level of honesty of these things. Am I doing them well? Be reflective, right? Something's wrong. Take off your happy glasses and back up. Like, is there a product market fit issue? let's have we just kind of continued down this path and we're so far down it, it didn't even occur to us to see if it's going to any destination. Um, do people love us, but no one's buying because this would be better offered as a SaaS, for example, versus a license? So when you look at the things to do, one that sometimes people find painful, but is also an option that always needs to be considered is you might need to pivot. And we have so many examples of companies that have pivoted, some 10%, some 180 degrees, and have found wild success and have not sacrificed the work they have done. So always remembering that some form of a pivot, or that if that's too strong of a term, a slight recalibration, there's always upside and opportunity there. Okay, I have gone through that in the promised amount of time and am ready to pop to some questions. And I'm just before, in case those of you need to grab time back, just real quickly, let me get my face out of the way. We do a newsletter every Sunday that Victoria and I write. You can just scan that or shoot us an email. We can, it's a super, like, it's just name, we'll never send you spam, etc. It basically is intro about something we're thinking about that's relevant from that week. It is 5 of the most interesting funding rounds that week, not usually the biggest, the most important, but ones that we have found interesting for some way. Some other bits and pieces, events going on, etc. Secondly, if you want another set of eyes on what you're doing currently in these different categories, and or talk about, like I said, we have deeper conversations on the investor side or subsets, just go ahead and scan this. We're happy to give you a quick checkup in some different ways, or, email, call, whatever it may be. So we will also, in addition to Skylar and Emily and the Connectpreneur team, we will also send and ensure that everyone gets the deck. But I'm going to pop back to questions.
Awesome. And I will say I get the newsletter every Sunday and it's awesome. I love reading. So yeah, I hope everyone signs up for that. Okay,
Okay.
we do have some questions. The first one was a private message to me that says we are a startup seeking seed capital to test and begin marketing on the global network of a major satellite communication company. The satellite communication company is prepared to expose us to their large client base. What are our chances of raising early stage capital?
With the amount of information, I will answer to the best of my ability, and please shoot me a note. This would, and Victoria, feel free to jump in as you wish here. This is something that is really interesting, so we, not necessarily specifically the satellite industry, right? But the concept of one to many. So investors, as well as the ability to close customers, the partner channel, whatever you want to call it, is wildly compelling in the sense that if they truly are going to expose you to their customer base, it can significantly impact and be very, very, very compelling to investors because you can now hit, that curve just goes a lot faster. So it would be much more compelling had the partnership, once the partnership gets to the point that, let's assume it's a papered partnership versus, oh, we're one of 100 people that have done a handshake, and doesn't need to be, I mean, like some giant fancy contract. Assuming there is a back to the target market, like audience fit, assuming that there's a really definable reason why their client base is your exact target market, this can very significantly improve your odds of getting funding. I can't give you an exact percentage based on where you are, but if you had, let's say, a handful of clients already that were happy and tick off a lot of those metrics and the story you're telling, and this has the ability, because remember, what investors want to do is see proof, traction, credibility, and the ability to scale. They want to know that you have the product, the target market, all of these things set, and that you have the marketing pieces set, that all they have to do is give you some capital infusion and potentially some, additional support and expertise, and they see the growth curve. So I would say, sounds good. I give you 2 thumbs up out of 10.
Awesome. I know you reviewed a lot of different obstacles, and you said that you've worked with over 100 startups. Which one do you see most often?
I would say the one we see most often, and again, partially because it is foundational and kind of intertwined with the rest of them, is target market. It's very scary to say, oh, I have something and I need people to buy it. So I'm gonna sell it to like this big pool of people, right? You're at a pool party and there's 100 people and they're swimming all over the place. There's moms and kids. There's like people drinking over there. And target market is, I would say, the number one. Um, you can't hope to sell it to everybody. The more you niche down, with rare exception, the more successful you will be. As an internal example about us, like, we're very transparent, heart on our sleeve kind of people. We've done business with huge companies. For example, way back when Tabasco came to us, and they were like, everyone on earth wanted a hot sauce. And they were like, will you help us? And we were like, we specialize in startups. That's like what we do. It's exactly what we do. After conversations, they were like, well, our key competition, and I don't remember the exact year, but there was a point when everyone on earth wanted to make a hot sauce, and there was, I don't know, hundreds of startups doing that. So they wanted to, how do we look specifically at the startup market, specifically here? Target market is critically important. And again, if you don't have the money for market research and, like, doing panels and all these other things, um, that's fine. There's 101 ways you can do that. I'll give you a very specific example of a client with whom we've connected. And we do also have on our blog, we do something called the founder series. I bring that up for 2 reasons. One, if you're a founder and you would like us to interview you and have you be part of our founder series, we would love to do that. And that goes out both within our newsletters, we promote it on social and do PR and stuff like that. But one of these clients,
Just shoot us an email. Debbie, I think you were going to the wearable example.
yeah, you want to share that? Or
Sure.
I can.
So just basically one. No, definitely. So we had, again, just kind of reiterating the importance of target market. We had a client, she had some really, really cool, interesting technology. She thought it was going to be very, very relevant to, young women in their 20s, primarily people doing yoga. She had a very, very clear view in her mind who was going to use this. And after iterating very quickly with different, test markets, she actually found it was women in their mid 50s who are actually more receptive to the product for a variety of different reasons. So again, it's great to make educated guesses, assumptions, but until you can actually get your product or service into these people's hands, you can't really, really understand where it's going to fully resonate. And you'll learn a lot too, which is always very interesting. Skylar, I know we're getting close on time. So are there any other questions? Because we do want to make sure we get to people.
Yeah, definitely. We do have another question. What do you think are the key metrics and or evidence areas to prove product market fit?
Great question. And some of these, by the way, will give kind of the short answers, and in our follow-ups can put more in there. I hate to keep reiterating, but the best way to show product market fit is with client success, right? So if you have customers I'm not going to go back to the actual slide, but if you're showing people are buying, and that's the most obvious metric. Another one which talked about briefly is engagement. If people are engaging with and that can be any, obviously that can be a wide range of actual metrics. I can, kind of send ones that tick things off. Victoria, can you think, I'm blanking on like an actual sort of list in my head. What are there specific stats that you're thinking of?
Yeah, and I think, as I'm seeing this one in the chat, Joshua, it actually might be easier if you want to shoot us an email to kind of detail that out. And Debbie, I think that's something as we send the follow-up to everybody, we can kind of put our little response in there to share, just because
Yeah.
I'm worried we're going to run out of time. And that
Yeah.
it's a really good question, and it can get down a little bit of a rat hole. But we
But
do,
there are very specific
yeah,
definable ones, which is
but I
why
want,
if we email it to you, then you can just be like, oh, great. I can just like check off which of these I have and how I can present them.
mhm.
Cool.
And I know I was just going to ask this one. I know Victoria might have answered it, but in case anyone else was curious, we had a question in the chat saying our medtech company is valued in part by FDA metrics. So how do we show commercialization metrics?
Yeah, there were a lot, just for a little bit of background, Debbie, because I know that obviously you
Yeah,
were
I
presenting.
can't see the chat. Yeah.
That's totally good. There were a lot of questions kind of about life sciences and about how that is a little bit of a different animal, and completely agree. I think the important part of this, the core of this presentation was really kind of talking about that customer aspect and how that can help you speed up investment. It's not the only thing. Tian said that we weren't allowed to talk for 72 hours straight. So we decided to kind of pick a little bit, like a small little fraction, and kind of talk about that here. But the life science question and that area is very, very different about how you go about investment. A lot of investors understand you have those longer timelines. I think I direct messaged almost everybody who asked a life science question, but would love for you, again, not enough time, even in 7 minutes, to kind of go through, because that's just a whole different animal outside of customers. Yes, because you can't just start administering drugs to the public, we understand, without trials, without a lot of different investment to even get to that piece. So
Yeah, I
feel,
would say though that a lot of the things that we spoke about and sort of like the broad categories, if you think of for example, the showing that you've gone from a stage X to a stage Y trial is a proof point, or showing percent results, or hey, you might say the average time that a
mhm.
health competitor in the same space did the exact same thing, but for a different, like for your thumb instead of your finger, was 3 months. So there's lots of detail there we can share, as Victoria said, in like a separate bucket.
Yeah, it's just not tied to the customer piece. They were saying, how do
Right.
we get customers? Obviously, if it's not approved. And I was like,
Yep.
that, of course.
Yeah. Yep. There is, however, also, and again, regulations aside, whether it's healthcare or others, there's also lots of magic to wait lists. People love being invited to like the friends and family, or like the sort of the same as fear of missing out, like the concept of, oh, there's something cool coming and I want to make sure I'm gonna know about it.
Yeah,
So
but we'll be careful with we'll be careful about
yeah,
that. Full
yep, get
response
on a
there.
wait list, whatever. Okay. Any other questions?
Awesome. Yeah. So this one says I validated our messaging with AI, but it doesn't seem to have done anything to help close deals. What are your thoughts about this?
My thoughts are that's because you used AI. Um, I think gosh, we've done so many now. I think we even did a master class on using AI in marketing, like maybe 2 years, or like when it first came out. AI is awesome. It's for 1,001 marketing things. The nuance of an art and a science, and testing and iterating a message, you cannot just, for example, put in AI a link to your website and say, tell me what we do, who we do it for, and why we do it best in one sentence. That's not going to come up with the correct, most compelling message that will get customers to act. And again, if you think that your customer is an investor, also, however, once you get that message flawless, there are lots of great options using AI in combination with agencies and in-house teams to then take that message and amplify it across different, assets, from creating some blog posts to this, to that, to the other thing. So one of the reasons it's an art and a science, and AI is just not there yet. Not to mention, for those of you that are using AI and leaving like the dashes and all the giveaways, please don't do that. That's even worse than writing your like college application essay. Anyone worth their salt can look at that and say, AI wrote this. And if they're using AI to write their value proposition and their message, they are not an innovative or experienced or whatever it may be business that I want to engage with, give my money, etc. So just be careful.
Yeah, it can be I mean, like as Debbie said, it's a great place for brainstorming. There's some good ways you can leverage AI. Just what we've seen of where it lacks right now is it's just that really, really nuanced piece about, what's going to resonate with that very specific target audience. How do they speak? How do they interpret what's around them? What are other big things, even current events? A lot of those things impact, new words, slang, everything else. So not totally surprised that AI didn't get you where you
Move the
wanted.
needle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I think we have 2 minutes left. So Skylar, it's your call.
Perfect. Yeah, maybe let's just finish it up with one more question, and then we can go ahead and end it. So the last question is, what do I do if investors aren't necessarily saying no or yes, but they're more just ghosting us?
Okay, so there could be, first of all, you're not alone. Hang in there. You are all awesome and amazing. And it could be a lot of reasons. I think I mentioned this somewhere, right? It could be like, it could be you, it could be them, but specifically in relation to customers, if you have great customers and you do have traction and a lot of these things are going well, go after different investors, right? You can't force someone to fall in love with you, right? So, there are people who are funding companies. I think, Tian, I think, can say all day long, they are having success. People are writing checks. So, you know, definitely do everything you possibly can on the customer front. But going back to like that number one most important thing, the customer's target market message, check these off. Don't, create your own sense of urgency of where you're going to spend your time and energy, and stay positive.
Awesome. Well, Debbie, Victoria, you guys are awesome. This class was great. I want to remind everyone that this presentation was recorded, so we'll put it on our YouTube channel, and I just put that link in the chat so that you have it. And with that, I think we will wrap it up. But make sure to scan the QR on the screen to sign up for the Sunday newsletter. And also feel free to reach out to Debbie and Victoria. They have their emails on the screen. They are truly marketing experts. So we would love to have you guys connect with them. Thanks everyone for joining. We hope to see you at another event soon.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Bye.